Hey, everybody. Dave Cooper, DaveCooper.live. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a super special guest today on our show, and I cannot wait to bring Craig Curtis on from Katerra. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. Right now, if you could, please hit that like and share button. We are on live, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And as always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel to help us grow the word of offsite and how we are changing the industry moving forward and how we build in healthier buildings to boot. So with that said, we have been live all week in Washington, D.C. I mean, it has been a wonderful week. We've been live almost 3 times a day. In fact, it has been 3 times a day. All right, everybody, we're going to bring in Craig Curtis. Craig's going to talk about the mass timber industry and how Katerra is involved in what we're doing with CLT, cross-laminated timber. I think this is going to really set the stage for where our industry is going moving forward. You know, and Katerra is all over the place with what they've been doing and in the news, and they're really making great progress. And I am going to welcome Craig Curtis in right now. Craig, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you today?
Hey, Dave. Very good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, this is wonderful having you on. I'm really looking forward to talking about what you're doing with CLT, mass timber, you know, and guess what? Everybody doesn't know this yet, other than what they saw in the post. We are going to give you an inside virtual tour of the manufacturing facility at the end of this show. So it's definitely stay tuned for that. And Craig's going to give us some PowerPoint presentation as well as we go through this. So Craig, why don't you tell us everything from birth till now about how you started in this, you know, from where you were when you were born to how you got to where you're at today, because you're playing a major role in changing the way our industry works. Go for it.
Well, maybe I'll skip the first 20 years or so and just maybe start with my career. I started my career as an architect and worked in San Diego for a few years, and moved to Seattle and started with a regional design firm called Miller Hull. Very well-known kind of boutique design firm, and became a design partner there. And I was there for almost 30 years. Had some incredible commissions. You know, I was working on a U.S. Embassy's contract worldwide, which is as good as it gets as an architect. Big GSA border crossing projects, and just our attitude at Miller Hull, which is the same as it is with a lot of really strong design firms, is every project needs to be reinvented. That, you know, we're always trying to reinvent the wheel. Every project is bespoke, and we're trying to be creative every time. And I get it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But in early 2016, or kind of late 2015, a good friend of mine, Peter Wolf, who came from a multifamily development business, very good friend of mine, also an architect. He used to work for me, and then he was back with his family business. He started telling me about this startup called Katerra, and it was sort of a mystery. It's a little bit hard to figure out exactly, what Katerra was trying to do, but he somehow convinced me to leave my job at Miller Hull after 30 years and jump into this startup world. And at the time, there were maybe 40 people worldwide in the company. Within about 4 years, it was 7,500 plus worldwide, including India, Middle East. Half of those were in North America. I mean, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, right? But it's been a fantastic ride. I've learned a ton, and mostly from people from outside of the building industry, actually, who are trying to bring lessons learned from how other things are manufactured in the world to architecture and to building design and construction. And it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of architects and designers and what's been going on, and the big change to panelization, offsite, mass timber, and all these different things that are happening within our industry, and this disruption that's coming about. I mean, it really, the architect's role is really changing. And you've kind of been on the forefront of that change, whether you wanted to be there or not. It's just kind of how your journey took you. And I think that's such an important topic right now, is how these roles are changing, and how your kind of background on all these great projects you've done has really led you to where you are today.
Yeah, I think it is changing, and I, I'll maybe start by saying the thing that hasn't changed for me is a passion for good design. I think it, and I don't think people think that going prefab or modular construction is going to water down the design creativity of an architect, and I would say absolutely not. That is not true. That's not what I've experienced now after being in Katerra for about 5 years, since pretty much its inception. And Karen Timberlake wrote a book years ago called Refabricating Architecture. They coined the term mass customization. And that's what I think we have to think of when we think about prefabrication or modular design and construction. It has nothing to do with watering down the design quality. The other thing that I think we talk. You were asking about the changing industry, changing role of an architect. I think architects are hungry to figure out how to get involved in this, because it's becoming apparent that this is the wave of the future. And one thing that's helping is we have some universities who are really embracing this. So, a shout out to people like Peter McKeith at the University of Arkansas, or Ryan Smith and Ivan Rupnik at Washington State University and Northeastern University. These are people who are really trying to push prefabrication and modular design and construction into the curricula of universities, into the architecture schools. And I'm assuming that the construction management schools are doing the same thing, but we really need to take it all the way back to that level.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, and we're seeing a lot of universities, University of Denver, Clemson, they're all starting to have some of these offsite programs coming into play. And you're absolutely right. Ryan and Ivan have really been leading the way on the education side of this, and really driving that message home, especially, with their own work with ModX Plus. They're professors, this is what they do and they teach. And I agree with you so much. So, with that, there's still not enough education out there for all the architects that we have, in this country and around the world. How do architects get involved? This is a regular conversation for me. So having your viewpoint on this is going to be very, very valuable to people that are watching. We're an architect out here. No matter what you've done, you've always been a site architect where you site build and design. How does one make a transition to, something like you're doing, or anybody else in the offsite community?
Yeah, I think maybe the key is to really get engaged with the manufacturing side. Yeah. It's understanding the factory, and that's why we're going to talk a lot today about mass timber and why it's so. I think that's an easy way for architects to get a taste of prefabrication and offsite construction, because essentially that's what CLT is, and really understanding the capabilities of the factory is key to starting design. You do not want to start a design project out of mass timber without understanding what the factory capabilities are. That's for certain. And so I think that would be one piece of advice I would give to any architects, is whether it's mass timber, whether it's a panelization factory or modular, full volumetric modular factory, get engaged with that factory and really understand what the parameters are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because you know what? You just start paying for design twice.
Yeah.
That's what happens, right? You're gonna pay twice. And and it's funny, the collaboration, and I'm assuming it's the same with you guys as other manufacturers out there that are in the space. Architects need to embrace the opportunity to collaborate with companies like Katerra and yourself, right, that have designs and want to build projects, because you're there to help them, not compete with them. You're there to take their project and educate them so they can design into the system.
Yeah, Dave, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think there's a perception out there that Katerra is this vertically integrated company and we're only, doing projects for ourselves. And that is absolutely not the case. We'll sell CLT to anyone, and we'll get engaged in projects at various levels. We don't have to do full turnkey design, engineering, offsite and assembly. Sure, we're going to have projects like that, for certain.
Right.
But in order to scale, we need to be able to go like platform scale and be able to work with a variety of contractors, a variety of architects and engineers, and be able to provide anything from full service to a very soft touch. And a lot of our projects right now are in collaboration with other architects and even other GCs.
Right. Well, that's great. Like you said, a lot of people don't know that, and I'm glad we're getting that out here on the show. So, why is Katerra making such a big move into the mass timber area? You want to touch on that? It's one of our topics on our list today, and I think this is a good leeway into why.
Yeah, well, back in 2016, when the CEO at the time, Michael Marks, outlined his vision for the company, what he talked about is the way to change this industry is through speed of construction. It's moving labor off-site and into a factory setting. Those two things are key. And then the third thing that is key or actually two more points that were key to me joining was one of a focus on design quality, and secondly, embracing responsible environmentally responsible design or sustainability. So when you think about mass timber, it absolutely checks every one of those boxes, right? So yes, on sustainability, as long as it's well managed fiber, and design quality, without a question. The biophilic properties of wood are well documented, and some of the most beautiful architecture in the world right now is coming out, with the mass timber movement.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 points, embracing technology and moving labor off site and into the factory. These are large format panels. Our press is 12 by 60. And with incredible accuracy, you're down to a couple of millimeters per panel. So the accuracy, the leveraging technology, it takes very few people in the factory, very few people on site to put this up. You can reduce truck traffic by up to 90%. You can reduce crew sizes by over 50%. Some of the hallmarks of offsite fabrication and offsite manufacturing, it's just perfect with mass timber and in particular CLT.
Yeah, I mean, especially with everything going on in the world today, right? And these forest fires and all the things that are happening when we talk about the environment and the health issues and the value between the energy efficiency and the productivity of what this type of construction offers. I mean, it's a huge deal.
Yeah, that's it's interesting you brought that up. I was interviewed by a local newspaper yesterday because we've got a big grand opening of our Catalyst project in Spokane, and I look out the window right now and it's smoky. The whole West Coast, we're just covered in smoke, as bad as I've ever seen it. And the forest fires, between climate change and a lack of being able to go in with more aggressive forest management into both private and public lands, it's a real problem, and it's so apparent right now. When I look out my window, it's like, oh my God, we could be harvesting more small diameter trees,
right?
And these are now it's a high value commodity that maybe wasn't before because of mass timber.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? With the way we're building too, it reduces the carbon footprint. I mean, there's so many benefits. So I mean, we go down the environmental and savings on that all day as well. So Katerra's investment in this, I mean, they saw this coming. Like what drove this? Was this a brainchild of yours, Craig, to really get into the CLT, side of this and really push that?
Well, it's actually one of the things I'm most proud of is I did introduce this idea to our CEO back in 2016 after joining, against the strong advice of our head of construction at the time, who thought it was way too soon, and it was going to take way too long for codes to change, and it was unproven in the U.S. But that's the advantage of having a CEO in our company who is from outside of the industry. And where others saw the fact that, well, it's way too new in the U.S., he saw that as an advantage. It had been in Europe for 20 years and it had not yet been introduced to the US. So that was an opportunity to Michael, where others saw nothing but risk. So fortunately, he approved a tour of some of the CLT factories over in Europe. And so there were a handful of us went. And so it was interesting. A couple of these guys, one guy from Hewlett Packard and another guy that came from Flextronics, consumer electronics manufacturing gurus, right? And they saw these factories in Europe and said, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can definitely do this in North America. And what are we waiting for? So came back, made a pitch to Michael, and he approved the design of our factory. And about a little over a year ago, it opened. So really happy with that.
The rest of the world is doing this, and they've been doing it for a long time now. So this is not a new concept. And there's so many, insulation value. There's so many factors that play a part in this type of construction. So, so moving into this, right? You mentioned earlier, you're kind of designing into platforms now, right? Building platforms. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's a really exciting way to design as an architect. It's quite different, and it's been more challenging than I could have ever imagined. And it's, back to the Kieran Timberlake book, Mass Customization. What it is, it's designing manufactured assemblies that can be put together in a variety of ways to give you that variety that you want. But it's also curating a supply chain, a catalog of materials that is specific to, what you want to accomplish. And designing to manufacturing level is something that has been, really challenging. Usually you leave that to the suppliers and the shop drawing process done by a variety of people. But now all of a sudden, we're responsible for taking it to that level of detail.
Right.
That's what's really different.
Sure. Love it. So we're really going to dive into this stuff here in just a moment. But, we have a lot of people tuning in, Craig, and this is part of the fun of going live because we get to say hello to people that are watching. There's some people that already know you in here that are giving you some shout outs, which is going to be fun. So listen, everybody, if you're just tuning in, we are live with Craig Curtis from Katerra. Please hit that like and share button right now. We need to spread the word about offsite construction and spread the word about what Katerra is doing because they're really pushing the envelope and taking some new directions, and we're all excited to be a part of that today. So with that said, Craig, we're going to go to the comments and see who is joining us. We have, George Ryman. Good morning from Phoenix, Arizona. Well,
hi, George.
Good to see you, George. We have Will Brennan. I didn't get to see this plant when I was at USNR. Should be good. Well, stick around, Will. We're definitely going to get to the plant here in a little bit. All right. Listen, we're in Poland now with Christoph. Hey, Chris. Good afternoon from Poland. Thank you for joining us. Chris is IQ Module. They have several manufacturing plants from steel to wood over in Poland. He was just on the show a couple of weeks ago. So doing some really, really great things. So I love it. So I got to look here. This looks like Will Brennan as well. Very cool. Never got to see this plant when I was at my other company. So he made another comment from a different platform is what we have. How about this guy? Dr. Brent Musson? Craig, we got to circle back and get serious about the CLT podium. I still want to do the first one.
Let's do it.
Yeah. No, hey, Dr. Musson, he's what a smart guy and just a great person all around. So I love it. We got Etienne. Etienne, hey, what's happening? CEO of SIGA North America. So thanks for joining us, Etienne. Always a pleasure having you on. George Ryman made another comment. Hey, Craig, good to see you excelling in this current environment. Keep up the good work. So looks like you got a supporter there. Now we're going to go to France. Henry Mickelberg, when you're collaborating outside of your vertically integrated delivery vehicle, do you competitively tender projects and are your contractual agreements genuinely collaborative is the question.
Do you competitively tender projects? Well, we might competitively tender portions of it, right? Maybe to clarify what I mean by collaborating outside of vertically integrated. For example, we are providing the CLT and engineering design assist on a project at the University of Washington under a design build agreement where there's another general contractor. Yes, we've had to, essentially hard bid that portion of the project to that customer. But we are able to provide, because we're vertically integrated, we could provide that the mass timber engineering piece in-house, which is a nice advantage for that GC.
Yeah, for sure. All right, perfect. We got Joel Hutchins joining us, and I'm sure he'll have something to say. He says, hi, all, joining late. Sorry, Joel is with Splash Modular. So, hey, Joel, thanks for joining us today. All right, let's get back into it, Craig. We always want to give the shout outs, and we love people that are supporting us in this industry and helping to drive the conversation. So, all right, we were talking about designing into building platforms instead of one-off buildings. Let's just hop back into that for a second. Just go over the value and the benefits of that real quickly, so our audience kind of can understand the whole concept and why you're doing that versus one-offs.
Yeah, I wonder, Dave, if it would help to maybe pull up a couple of those images on that PowerPoint I shared with you.
Sure.
If we could do that. Yeah, let's see. Now, will I be able to control this?
You should be able to control it on your end. Absolutely.
Okay, let me know if it's coming up here.
Yep, it's working. I at least see your mouse.
Let's see. Is that coming up?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, let me just jump to. So platform design, I use this analogy a lot, or metaphor of an automobile. Every potential combination of things within when you're picking out what you want for the interior and all the accessories of your automobile has been carefully curated, and that just isn't done within the design and construction industry, right? And so what I mean by platforms is by having that narrow catalog of assemblies and materials that can then be put together into a variety of different ways. So in the case of our garden platform, we have a limited number of unit plans, but they can be assembled into a wide variety of ways. So you have 288 base building geometries out of only a dozen unit plans that can be arranged in different ways. And we have to be able to design these into this kit of parts that can fit together seamlessly. And it's all designed to be fabricated in our factory offsite in Tracy, California. So whether it's the cabinets or the bath kits or the wall panels and floor panels, these all come together in a seamless fashion, much like you're assembling something else. And so the end product, you get this. You can provide a great variety of different unit types, different exterior expression, different materials, but whoops.
That's okay.
I think I just closed out.
Yeah, you'll have to reshare it.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah. So it what it does, it just streamlines the design process tremendously, as well as definitely increases the assembly time on site. Okay. But for us as designers, we've got those assemblies are cataloged, and you can pull them off, as a Revit asset, and immediately place it into a model that then goes right to the factory.
Sure. So that's interesting enough. So when these are leaving the factories, let's talk about it a little bit. How does it work on site and with the deliveries and the trucks? I mean, it's all labeled, I'm sure, on how the whole process goes together.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to try to get back up here to share again. Excuse me. Yeah, that's key. That's definitely key, is to make sure that everything as it gets delivered to the site is put in order, and that's again going back to mass timber. That's part of the game there, right? That's a really easy thing to do, to make sure that it comes back, that everything that gets to the site is put exactly in the order that it's going to be installed in the field. Got
it. So whenever you're ready, I can put that back up.
Okay. Yeah, I've got it back up. So, yeah, I think we could just keep going, and then we'll maybe pull up some mass timber stuff later.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Love it. So the manufacturing software. So the software, you're building this essentially twice, one on the computer and then once in the field. Accurate?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, VDC. In fact, over the last year, I would say there's been a heightened emphasis within the company on VDC and the importance of it. And it's super important in mass timber buildings, but also even with that garden product that I was just sharing with you. That's right. A stick. That's not a full mass timber project, but it's panelized walls and cabinets and our own windows and things. But that has to go through that same VDC process for sure.
Yeah, and VDC stands for
Virtual Design
Components. Yep. Yeah. I just want to make sure that people tuning in, they understand the terminology. We get it, but we're such a small portion of the industry. We want to make sure everybody gets it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And building this virtually, using VDC or to design this, I mean, it makes all the difference in the world. It allows you to be so precise and so accurate that everything comes together nice. My next question really is: so we're designing this, on the computer. Is the computers talking to the equipment on the factory production line?
Well, unfortunately, we're not there yet within Katerra. I mean, that's the dream, right? Is to have the same software suite so that the architects, from the time you're working on a model, that it's seamless, that software is able to transfer easily right into manufacturing. Now, there is software out there like Katerra that is very good at doing that. Okay. And so we're making some efforts right now into streamlining our own software suite in order to make that easier, so we don't have any of these, or maybe we can at least reduce the number of handoffs that you have from software suite to software suite to get to the DFMA.
Sure. Let me go in here some questions real quick, because I think it's kind of in line with what we're talking about. We have Joel Hutchins actually wrote, how does being vertically integrated help with the CAD CAM and data flow process?
Well, yeah, that's a great question, and it's actually huge because we do own the factories, and we know the people who the people who are creating those files that go right to the equipment on the factory floor are Katerra employees, as well as the architects and engineers who are starting the design. So that collaboration between those individuals, because we're together within the same company, has been instrumental in being able to streamline that process. Now, I wish I could say that the software made it easy, but it doesn't yet. But we're working on that, and I think the industry as a whole is trying to solve some of that too.
Sure. Joe had a follow-up question as well. How does your platform kit of parts relate to the fabrication constraints? Do you allow customization within these constraints?
Yeah, the short answer is no. And that's been really tough. That we've had to train our sales team to be able to tell a customer that if you want this product, no, you can't customize it, because those details are baked into the model, and that defeats the purpose of having a platform design that you can pull from. So, but we have so much variety within the platform that we're convinced that it shouldn't affect anyone. But for example, we have customers who have said, well, I'd really rather have a 10-foot ceiling instead of 9'6". So can you do that for me? And we have to say, no, not within the platform. Yeah, we can stick build that for you all day long, but if you want the economy of an industrialized building, you have to stay within the parameters of that. And those parameters are driven by our manufacturing capabilities. So our Tracy factory has certain requirements for the height of the building walls in order to be put on a truck, on a lowboy, and be able to go, on the interstate highway system across the country. There are certain restrictions, so we have to stay within that and design within that, and then we have to sell that to our customers and not bend, and that's been challenging.
Yeah, it is, but but how do you match the one-offs, right, and still try and do volume and in a larger production format? And I think there's several people trying to figure that out, but it's probably one of the largest challenges we face right now in the industry, and all this information to talk.
Right. And our feeling is, though, if it's a high quality product and it does come in at below market,
Right.
um, there's nothing wrong with having fewer choices. It's okay that you can't just walk through Home Depot and pick out any light fixture and any faucet you want. We have a catalog, but it's a very high quality catalog. And so anything you pick, we're really proud of, and we'll stand behind it and say it's, these are top of the line finishes and products that we're picking out, and we're vetting these suppliers, make sure that they're, it's coming from socially responsible factories and things like that.
Yeah, sure. So how does anybody see the designs, the plans that you have?
On our website, you can find information on our catalog of materials, or you can go to our factory once people are able to travel again. And I invite people to get a tour of the Tracy factory. We've got a beautiful showroom there. Unfortunately, we're not taking a lot of people through it right now. It's sitting there mostly vacant, but we've got a beautiful showroom that includes all of our materials for multifamily.
Yeah, love it. Well, hey, maybe we'll be out there and we can bring it live to everybody, and they can tune in and join it. It'd be a lot of fun to do that. So
yeah,
that's kind of what we're looking forward to in the future. All right, let's get back into our topics. Can you believe it's been already about 35 minutes? Time goes.
Yeah. We haven't really talked mass timber that much, so let's do it. That's the thing that's the thing I'm most passionate about.
Yeah. So let's hop into it. Let's hop into the mass timber and walk us through why you're so passionate about it.
Yeah. So in addition to the reasons I put out there before, we're including mass timber going forward into the building platforms that we're pursuing next. So I just showed you a little snapshot of the garden product, and that's a 3-story walk-up multifamily. But really, to solve the workforce housing crisis in America, we need to take on the urban housing model, right? And that's not a 3-story walk-up. These are taller buildings. Fortunately, the codes are changing right now as we speak to allow taller wood buildings throughout North America. So this is up to 12 stories of wood construction in the type 4B, up to 18 stories in type 4A. But the type 4B is what we're really focused on at Katerra right now, because you can expose a fair amount of the wood, which we think is really important, not only to the economy of the project, but to to take advantage of the biophilic properties of building with wood. So all of a sudden, that 6 to 12 story model is changing. That landscape is changing, and mass timber is going to be a big part of solving this. And we're focused on creating a platform like I just shared with you in the garden, but taking it to the urban environment in that 6 to 12 story building model. And it'll be a combination of cold form steel, panelized walls, with CLT floor slabs and roof. And I think that's going to be the combination of the future.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. So do you want to get back to your slide presentation? Do you have some things that you could show us on that?
Yeah, sure.
Put it back up here. And as he's pulling that up, stay tuned. We are going to do a quick virtual tour of this new factory, so everybody that's joining us can see what is going on. And we're going to do that here shortly, right after we get through this presentation.
Yeah, so here are the code changes, right? The type 4A, B, and C, which is coming. It's already adopted in some of the states. And so you can imagine taking that kit of parts approach to buildings of this scale, right? Up to 180 feet, 12 stories of mass timber. There's a 25-story building in Milwaukee that just broke ground out of mass timber. And then I will bring up the fact that we're not just focused on multifamily, but we think replacing tilt-up concrete with tilt-up wood fiber has a lot of potential. We're looking at how easy it is to provide these panels and lower the carbon footprint for distribution centers and things like that. And then in mid-rise office, taking this kit of parts approach to a mid-rise office and being able to create a model for commercial office that utilizes mass timber and takes advantage of, the beauty and the biophilic properties of wood and the environmental benefits of wood.
Right.
It's just absolutely beautiful product. So these are some of the other building platforms that we are developing and looking forward to rolling out over the next year or so.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. So, I mean, if we were to say I'm a developer and I have a big building or a project that I want to do, what would be some of the first things you'd tell me as to why we should use this?
Well, first, I would say that embracing this new way of designing and building with whether you call it a platform approach, parts approach, I'm convinced that this is the way of the future. So you first make that leap and say, okay, I want to take advantage of that. And what does that mean? Then it goes to the capabilities or the parameters of the factory. In the case of our mass timber factory, CLT factory in Spokane, that 12-foot by 60-foot module is key. So what you see here is a 20-foot grid spacing on the columns, and accepting some of these things early on, before you even put pencil to paper, is what's important in order to realize the benefits. So, to drive the cost of manufacturing down, you're trying to use, every cubic inch of fiber that's put into that press. So to do 30-foot panels that are easy to truck, you can take a 60-foot panel, CNC it right in half, put all the connections using CNC, and that's going to be the most efficient product. So why not design with the lowest cost product? It's like using all of your sheet of plywood, all of your sheet of drywall when you're laying out. It's kind of common sense. And what we do need to do as an industry is take that to a building level or a structural systems level, instead of just thinking about it in terms of some of these commodity products.
Sure. I agree. So moving on, and we touched a little bit on it. You mentioned workforce housing, right? And we're talking about the benefits here. Can we touch a little bit on, how it makes a difference on the environmental and social and industry impact?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I joined Katerra, is to maybe, be able to tackle one of the biggest social issues of our time, and that's the lack of affordable workforce housing. Yeah. And so what we think of as workforce housing is housing for people in that 80 to 120% AMI category. So that's architects and graphic designers and firefighters and policemen and teachers. This is middle class America who can't find a home without paying more than 33% of their income on rent or a mortgage, and it's just not right. And so that's what we're trying to attack with our approach to housing, multifamily housing.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? That's an approach that's not talked about a whole lot. And I think it's a very important approach, because the middle class is really suffering right now to have workforce housing and be able to afford to live in the areas they're working, and so many other things that are taking place. Because, on the coast, especially East Coast, West Coast, the cost of living is super, super expensive now.
Yeah, that's right. And there's just way too much emphasis put on luxury housing, and even market rate housing quite often doesn't hit that target market of 80 to 120% AMI. It's overlooked, and it's unfair, and it needs to be addressed in this country. And I think the way to do it is through a platform approach, and it has to be through offsite manufacturing in order to drive the costs down through increasing productivity and
right,
moving labor off of the job site and into the factory setting.
Sure. Love it. So what haven't we touched on, Craig, that you feel is super important for everybody out there to really look at before we go a little further here?
Well, maybe we could tee up the factory tour. What do you think?
I think people would be really interested in seeing the factory tour, and I like everybody on this show, so that's a good thing. We're gonna play it for them. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's pull it up here. I will add it to the stream, and then we will go live here in 1 second. All right, everybody see that? Perfect. Let us know if you can hear it. once it
Hi,
gets
good
going.
morning. My name is Kirk Gummerman, Senior Project Manager here at the Katerra, Spokane Valley cross-laminated timber plant. It's about a 270,000 square foot manufacturing facility. Behind me here, we're in our green storage building. This is where we store all of our raw materials prior to production. The materials that we're using are 2x6 and 2x8, spruce pine fir, north, number 2s in the longitudinal layers, and number 3 in the transverse layers. We're also currently certified on Doug fir larch as well, so we can offer different species to different clients based on different aesthetic and structural needs. All of our raw materials come from the green storage building onto our decoupled sorting line here. This is where we do our scanning, sawing, and sorting of the materials. As you can see to my right here, everything is coming off the tilt hoist. It's going to go through a scanner, then it's going to be cut if needed, and then be sorted into one of 30 different bins. Different things we scan for are bow, crook, warp, twist, any knot sizes, different variations, and it goes into one of the 30 different bins based on aesthetic, moisture, and other structural properties of the board. One of the things that we sort for on the decoupled sorting line is the moisture content of the board. We can't accept anything greater than a 15% moisture content in the process. Therefore, anything 15% or greater needs to be dried down. What we use for drying is a continuous dry kiln, 13 million BTUs. As you'll see here behind me, each unit is stickered, which allows for airflow to pass through the unit for even and effective drying of the unit. Now that we've sorted the boards out of where we want to have them within each panel, we have the short boards on top, which make up the width of the panel, either 10 or 12 feet, and the long boards, which get finger jointed together, which make up the length of the panel at 60 feet long. After our long boards and short boards are separated, the long boards come here to the finger joiner, and this is so we can create the 60-foot length for the length of our panel. What we're doing here is we're cutting fingers into the boards, which then have glue applied to them, end up getting jammed together, then going through an RF tunnel for an almost instant cure. After the finger joining process, we need to cut the long boards down into those 60-foot lengths. This is achieved by the flying saw, which moves in line with the board and cuts at exactly 60 feet 6 inches. After the flying saw performs its task, the boards go through planer number 3, get planed down to the net size, and come to this long board storage system. Each one of these trays here effectively represents each layer of the longitudinal part of the panel right before it goes to the pressing and layup. After the long boards and the short boards get separated and the manufacturing operations are completed on those, they come together here at the pressing and application station. What we do is we have the gantry with the long boards comes down, the glue applicator runs across it, the gantry with the short boards comes down, the glue applicator comes back, and you keep going until you hit 3, 5, 7, or 9 layers. After the layup is complete, then it's into the press for pressing. Now that we've finished the layup process, we've rolled our billet here into the press. We're gonna press down from 3 different axes. We're gonna have top down, we're gonna have our side squeeze, and we're gonna have our end squeeze. The reason that we push from 3 different axes is to ensure that we have a really tight panel, which is better for fire performance, structural performance, and gives a better end look to the customer. This panel here is hot off the press. It is 60 feet long, 12 feet wide. This one right here is a 5-ply at 6.9 inches tall. We're about to go into the CNC machine to get all cleaned up and cut into the finished panel sizes. So this is a 9-ply panel here. This is the thickest panel we make at a little over a foot tall. This one's a Douglas fir here, as you can tell. It has a little bit of a reddish tint compared to the spruce pine fir. And this was one that we actually completed for one of our certification efforts recently here. One of the largest panels you'll ever see. This is one of our 3 CNC machines here. The CNC machines have 3 primary functions: to square off the panel after it comes out of the press, to put the spline or any type of rebate connection into the panel, which is used for the panel-to-panel connections in the field. And then the last thing it does is cuts any MEP penetrations into the panel that may be required. And this is the final step before it goes off to the sander. If you've ever used a belt sander before, this is our idea of what. This is the last step of the manufacturing process, which is the sander. This happens right after the CNC machine. What we do is we take about 1 millimeter off the top and the bottom, and this allows for a nice, smooth, uniform finish across the whole panel. Right after this, what we do is we put on an end crane sealer, which protects the panel from logistics to construction. The environmental conditions of CLT manufacturing are critically important. That's why we monitor the temperature and humidity very closely. The temperature range needs to be 70 degrees plus or minus 5, and we're between 45 and 55% humidity. Due to the different seasons of the year and the humidity here in Spokane, we have to add in humidity at certain times to keep ourselves in between that 45 and 55% range. This allows for optimum adhesion of the gluing and application process. With all the scanning and sorting we do, we capture all the unique attributes of the board by this unique identifier here, which is a QR code. This QR code is placed on every single board and it's tracked throughout the manufacturing process. We track all the attributes of the board as they go through the manufacturing operations all the way to the finished panel.
Wow. I have to tell you, so how many square feet is this factory?
I think it's about 230,000 square feet, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and it looks like it's mostly automated the whole way through. Is that fairly accurate?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive how tight the crew is for the amount of product that they can produce.
I could watch that video all day. You said that before, and I've watched it. Like it's soothing to watch. I mean, it's such an interesting process on how it all comes together, and it really is a testament to what you guys are doing as far as producing, a factory at such a high level.
Yeah, we're super proud of this factory. We're trying to fill the capacity of it right now. Of course, it has a huge capacity, and that's why we're really looking for people to partner with. Architects, engineers, general contractors who are looking to move into mass timber. We've got so much capacity and will for years. I think there's some people think that we built that factory for ourselves, and I don't know that day will ever come because we've got so much capacity. No, we built it to move this market forward, the mass timber market, and we really believe in it. And so it's for our own projects, but also equally for everyone else to take advantage of.
Love it. Love it. Well, let's hop over to some comments that we have, and then we're going to wrap up with, what's on the horizon for you guys. So maybe you can give us a look into the future as much as you're willing to share, and then that'll wrap it up for us, everyone. So here we go. We have Andrew Seeley joining us. Another fascinating topic, great discussion and questions from this high caliber audience. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Let me keep rolling through. We have a LinkedIn user. Actually, when you have constraints, you have to innovate. A great example of this I saw was the Katerra version of the bathroom module. I think that may be Brennan again. I'm not sure why some of the time the photo comes up and doesn't, but thank you very much. All right, let's keep moving here. Henry Mickelberg, is there any merit in the possibility that Katerra's previous issues were due to their erstwhile CEO not being from the industry?
Well, of course, there's two sides to everything, right? Katerra wouldn't exist without Michael coming from outside of the industry and seeing the advantages of being able to, take lessons learned from, his background in consumer electronics manufacturing and applying that to construction. So, sure, you can armchair quarterback anything, but I hand it to him for having the vision to get this company going, and that vision is still alive.
Love it. I love it. I'm actually just looking for somebody's name. James Roger, he says, James Roger?
I don't know.
He used to be with Katerra at one point. So keep pushing the innovation, Craig.
Great. Okay. Thanks,
James. I had to look up on my phone who that was. All right, Christoph, one of the founding partners, IQ Module. Great approach with wood structure prefab for affordable residential. Simple as more. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I love it. All right, so we got Jennifer here made a comment. Sorry, we're covering your face We'll read through it. Craig, we were just talking with Greg Ugaldi, who's the immediate past chairman of the NAHB, about how many people are knocked out of the housing market with each $1,000 increase in price. Talking about housing affordability in terms of people as well as dollars, that may help regulators address this major social issue.
Yeah, that's so true, right? I mean, we talk about it as, you know, reducing the you know, the cost for the developer, or you know, for the team, and not for the end user. We don't talk about the end user enough and what they need. I think that's a very good point.
Love it. All right, thank you for the comment, Jennifer. All right, this is actually Kurt Nichols. Is the glue urethane, or does it qualify as HRA?
I'm actually, I apologize, I'm not familiar with the term HRA, but it's a polyurethane. It's the face glue for the CLT is actually red list approved. So we have our ILFI declare label on our panels. There's a slight amount of formaldehyde in the glue that's used only for the finger jointing of the longitudinal boards, but it's such a small amount within the panel that the panel qualifies for the red list approved label, which is the same for structural lam. You see a couple of other manufacturers who have applied for and gotten the same label. So it's a very, very safe, environmentally responsible adhesive.
Awesome. Thank you for the answer. Andrew Seeley says, cool virtual tour. Thanks, Craig and team. Always love that. Another LinkedIn user. Let me see who this was. Will Brennan said, the factory is like an app store. Hey, listen, technology, we need it. We need it. And it's going to help us move things forward. Bridget Brady, James Roger, howdy. So if you guys didn't see that, I'd put that